Hi, I'm Tim Weatherford, lead instructor at Tulsa Welding School, Tulsa campus. Just kind of wanted to go over like a weekend hobbyist weld machine you probably have at the house. It'd be good for small projects, welding on little trailers, fixing a few chairs, whatever you might have. Be a pretty good setup for someone that hasn't welded before. Even somebody that has welded before, it comes in handy. Just a nice little machine. Most of them are in like a 110 to 240 range as far as the outlet size that's going to be needed. When you get one of these setups, there's a few of them that are going to be a little different. Some of them are like this one that you can use either gasless flux core or dual shield flux core or MIG wire with it. That's what this setup is. It has a regulator that comes with it. You'll need an additional bottle of argon CO2 mix. On these machines, you have a wire feeder setup that you're going to need some wire with, whichever type that you're going to need with your machine. Typically, just a mild steel carbon wire is going to be what you're going to look for. Depending on what diameter and what size your machine is rated for, whether you're using like a .030 or 035 or 045 diameter wire, you just want to make sure your machine is sized appropriate for it. So as far as how do you know if your machine will do that, if it's capable to do it, a lot of the info that's on the box of the machine is going to tell you kind of its range of wire that you can run, or different types of wire that can run. Also, once you find your machine that you're looking for, most of them have a lot of information underneath the hood. It's going to give you everything from material thicknesses that it can be used with. It's going to give you your voltage settings, your wire speed settings, all that stuff is usually on here. So they make it pretty easy with these machines with the charts that they give us. They also give you a few other tools. Some companies give you these little tools to gauge what material thickness that you're using, so that way you can look it up on the chart, see what kind of wire size that you're going to need, what wire speed that you're going to be running, and your voltage with these machines. So all little helpful things, especially for the novice, the weekend welder, however you want to say it. So lots of good stuff there. So as far as other things to consider whenever you're looking at one of these types of machines for whatever type projects you're going to do, MIG is a very good machine to start with. If you've never welded before, if you want something that's fairly easy to use, because it's literally, you pull the trigger, it feeds the wire, it does everything for you, and the only thing you have to do is a little manipulation with it, and maybe some heat adjustments or voltage adjustments. But as far as that goes, they're pretty simple to use. Lots of videos, maybe one like this one. Other things you need to consider whenever you're picking up or you're deciding on a MIG machine, if you are using a machine like this one that does use an inert gas, you need to think about the cost of it. And usually a pretty good ratio on your gas is going to be something like a 75-25, 75% argon, 25% CO2. You can also go up from there all the way to like a 90-10, 90% argon, 10% CO2. Other than that, they do make tri-mixes of gas, but really it's for what most general use is going to be, the 75-25 is going to be plenty. So other than that, we talked about the wire. The wire that you'll be looking for is going to either be in, depending on your machine setup, whether you're going to be going for one of these little small 10-pound rolls, if you're going to be going for a 5-pound roll, 30-pound roll, they make them all the way up to a 33-pound roll or bigger. But for home use, machines that run these, run the little bit larger, like a 10-pound roll, would be would be perfect. Unless you're planning on doing a lot of welding, then go for the bigger roll. Other things that people don't think about once you get this type of setup, there are things that need to be replaced from time to time, just to help the function of the machines. One of those, whenever you're dealing with a MIG welder, you've got your gun, you have a few things they call contact tips. What this does is when you thread your wire through the machine, it's going to come out here. It has to have some kind of a guide and a contact. So it actually is going to get power from it. Make sure whenever you buy the contact tips that it's sized appropriate for the wire. So this roll of wire is a .030, and it's usually stamped on the side of the contact tip. Then it's going to say .030. So we want to make sure they're sized appropriate. If you don't size them to your desired wire size is, if it's smaller than the wire, it's not going to feed through. If it's larger than the wire, you're going to have issues with the machine is constantly popping, the wire is trying to burn back, it's just not wanting to run right. So if you've already bought one of the machines and you're having some issues with it, check your contact tips, because it's also a common issue. People don't realize it. The contact tip gets a little worn and just doesn't make good contact. So make sure you keep a good one in there at all times. Another thing is the nozzle. Make sure you got a few extras laying around. Make sure it's the appropriate one for the type of MIG gun that you have. Make sure it doesn't have too large of an opening, too small of an opening. For most of these, they're pretty standard on the opening size, but if you do see some that are larger, you have to take into account that you're going to have more gas flows. Is it really for the type of welding that you're doing? So generally, if you're just doing stuff for around the house, whatever, kind of stick with the standard stuff. Then once you get into it, I guess you get more fluent with welding. You can start exploring a few different things, but then by that time you might be looking at new welding machines and all that. But anyway, with the nozzles, like I said, make sure that's the appropriate one for your setup, and have a few extras on hand. And that's how you put together a MIG welding machine.